Aviation. The USS Gerald R. Ford battles a severe storm. The flight deck crew, utilizing specialized gear and training, a hailstorm hits the open ocean. The waves are already 30 feet high.
The wind is screaming at 80 miles per hour. And sitting on the flight deck of a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier are dozens of fighter jets worth over $70 million each. There is no port nearby.
There is no shelter. There is nowhere to run. So what does the Navy do? The answer is a system so precise, so battle-tested, and so impressive. Most Americans have never heard of it.
This is one of the most overlooked questions in military history. Everyone knows aircraft carriers are powerful. Everyone knows they launch jets and project force across the globe. But almost nobody talks about what happens when Mother Nature shows up.
Not an enemy fleet, not a missile, just raw, uncontrolled weather and billions of dollars in aircraft sitting exposed on a metal deck. In the middle of the ocean. The U.S. Navy has been dealing with this problem for over a century. And what they've built, the procedures, the technology, the training is nothing short of remarkable. If you've ever wondered how the world's most powerful military
protects its most expensive equipment in the worst conditions on Earth, this one is for you.
Type proud in the comments below if you believe our Navy has the best trained sailors in the world. First, let's understand what we're actually dealing with. A modern U.S. Navy aircraft carrier.
Specifically the Ford class, is one of the largest moving objects ever built by human hands. It stretches over 1,090 feet long.
It displaces over 100,000 tons of water. It carries a crew of roughly 5,000 sailors.
And it holds anywhere from 75 to 90 aircraft on board at any given time. Now here's where it gets serious. Those aircraft don't just sit in a garage somewhere safe. Many of them are parked directly on the open flight deck.
Exposed to wind, rain, and yes, hail. An F/A-18 Super Hornet costs around $67 million.
An F-35C Lightning II runs close to $80 million.
When you add it all up, the aircraft sitting on a single carrier deck can represent a value of well over $5 billion. And hailstorms don't care about that price tag. Out in the open ocean, weather systems behave differently than they do on land.
There are no mountains or terrain features to weaken a storm. There are no weather stations every few miles giving real-time updates.
A squall can build fast, intensify quickly, and hit hard, with hailstones, driving winds, and waves that turn the flight deck into one of the most. So how does the Navy keep those jets safe? It starts long before the first hailstone ever falls. The Navy's first line of defense isn't chains or hangar bays. It's information.
Every U.S. aircraft carrier has a team of specialists called aerographers. These are trained Navy enlisted sailors whose entire job is to monitor weather.
They track atmospheric pressure, sea state, wind patterns, storm systems, and ocean conditions around the clock, every hour of every day. Whether the carrier is in calm waters or in the middle of a typhoon, they use a combination of tools. Onboard radar systems scan the skies around the ship. Satellite weather feeds provide broader coverage of developing storm systems hundreds of miles away. Shore-based weather stations and fleet oceanography centers send updated forecasts directly to the bridge. This matters because hailstorms at sea rarely appear out of nowhere. They are almost always part of a larger weather system.
A severe squall line, a tropical disturbance, or a fast-moving cold front. When aerographers detect something developing.
Helm, come right 20 degrees.
The carrier's command team has time to act.
The first option is always to avoid the storm entirely. A carrier battle group can adjust course, increase speed, or slow down to let a system pass ahead.
In peacetime operations, this is often the preferred move. Why deal with a storm if you don't have to? But here's the thing. Carriers don't always get that luxury.
During combat operations or when protecting a specific zone, a carrier can't just turn around and run. It has to stay on station.
And that's when the real preparation begins.
When a storm is unavoidable, the flight deck goes into full preparation mode.
And it has to happen fast. The first priority is aircraft positioning. Any jet sitting on the outer edge
is immediately moved toward the center. This matters because the outer edge of the carrier is where the most violent movement happens. When a 100,000-ton ship rolls in heavy seas, the edges of the deck can swing through a wide arc.
A jet sitting near the edge faces a much higher risk of sliding, tipping, or in the worst case, going over the side. Pulling jets toward the center line reduces that risk dramatically. But repositioning alone isn't enough.
Every aircraft on the flight deck gets chained down. And not just with one chain.
Multiple heavy-duty steel chains are run from attachment points on the aircraft's frame to anchor rings embedded in the deck itself.
On a modern carrier, those anchor rings are rated to hold thousands of pounds of force. The chains are tightened until the aircraft cannot move even a fraction of an inch. Alongside the chains, wheel chocks, voops, solid blocks wedged tightly in front of and behind the wheels prevent any rolling movement on the deck surface. This combination of chain down and chocking is standard procedure anytime weather gets rough. But for a severe hailstorm, the Navy doesn't stop there. The hangar bay, the ship's underground garage.
Here's something most people outside the military world don't fully appreciate. An aircraft carrier isn't just a flat deck with jets sitting on top. Beneath that flight deck is one of the most impressive enclosed spaces ever built on a ship, the hangar bay.
The hangar bay on a Nimitz-class or Ford-class carrier runs 685 feet long, 110 feet wide, and 25 feet high.
That's a single enclosed space larger than 2 football fields, placed end to end, completely protected from the elements, and sitting deep within the armored hull of the ship. This is where jets go when the weather gets truly dangerous.
When a hailstorm is closing in and the call is made to bring aircraft below, the process is fast and disciplined.
The carrier uses 4 massive hydraulic elevators, one on each side of the ship, to move aircraft from the flight deck down into the hangar bay. These elevators are large enough to carry a fully loaded fighter jet, and they're fast enough to cycle multiple aircraft in a short window of time. Once inside the hangar bay, those aircraft are again chained down and secured. The massive hangar bay doors. Heavy steel panels at the sides of the ship are closed and sealed, making the space watertight. Hailstones, wind, spray, nothing gets in.
The hangar bay can hold well over 60 aircraft at one time. That's most of the carrier's air wing.
Protected inside an armored steel box, completely shielded from whatever the sky is throwing at the ship above. It's an engineering solution that most people never think about, but the sailors who serve on carriers know exactly how valuable. Now here's where things get truly intense, and where most people underestimate just how violent ocean weather can be. When a hailstorm hits a carrier in open ocean, the ship doesn't just sit still and take it. The navigation team actively manages the ship's movement
to reduce impact. The helmsman adjusts the carrier's heading so the ship takes incoming waves at a slight angle, roughly 15 to 20 degrees off the bow. This is called quartering the sea. It sounds like a small detail,
but it makes an enormous difference. A ship that takes waves directly head-on or directly broadside can roll violently. A ship that meets them at an angle cuts through more smoothly, reducing the side-to-side motion that can throw unsecured equipment around.
Speed is also adjusted. Too fast, and the ship pounds through waves with brutal force. Too slow,
and it sits vulnerable. The engineering team works the engines to find the right balance, a speed that keeps the ship moving and responsive,
without amplifying the impact of each wave. Then there's the ballast system. Modern carriers can shift water ballast between tanks,
located throughout the hull to adjust the ship's center of gravity. When a carrier starts listing to one side in heavy seas,
ballast tanks reporting full starboard side. Listing corrected by 3 degrees.
Ballast tanks on the opposite side can be filled to bring it back to level.
But it significantly reduces extreme rolling. And here's a fact that puts the whole thing in perspective. During the 1988 typhoon in the Sea of Japan, the USS Midway, one of the older carriers in the fleet at that time, rolled 26 degrees in the storm.
26 degrees, that's nearly tilted onto its side, and it came back upright. The carrier survived, the aircraft secured below survived, and the crew made it through. That kind of resilience is not accidental. It is engineered, trained, and practiced, year after year, deployment after deployment. Hail specifically, what it does to aircraft.
Hailstones are not soft. Even medium-sized hail, around 1 inch in diameter, hits with enough force to dent aluminum.
Fighter jet skin is lightweight composite material, not thick steel. A direct hailstorm can leave dozens of dents across the fuselage, wings, and control surfaces. That damage matters more than it looks. Small surface deformations affect how air flows over the wing at speed, create vibration points, and can ground an aircraft until repairs are made. On a carrier in a combat zone, a grounded jet isn't just a maintenance issue, it's a gap in the ship's fighting power. That's why getting jets below deck before hail hits is the top priority. After any weather event, AIMD crews, maintenance technicians, inspect every exposed aircraft panel by panel before it flies again. The Navy didn't learn this in a classroom. They learned it the hard way. In December 1944,
Admiral Halsey's Third Fleet steamed directly into Typhoon Cobra in the Philippine Sea. Ships weren't properly ballasted. Aircraft weren't fully secured. 3 destroyers sank. 790 sailors lost their lives. Nearly 150 aircraft were destroyed or swept overboard.
in the aftermath, the Navy rewrote its entire weather protocol.
The aerographer rating was formalized. Aircraft securing procedures became mandatory.
Every protection system that exists on carriers today carries the memory of that storm. When the US Navy gets hurt, they fix it. Permanently. That's the culture that has kept American forces at the top for over a century. Today's carriers handle severe weather better than anything that came before them. The USS Gerald R. Ford features faster hydraulic elevators, fully integrated weather and navigation systems, and heavier hangar bay doors that seal more securely than older Nimitz-class ships. The ballast management system is more responsive, and the hull design provides greater stability in rough seas. And the crew matches the technology. Every sailor aboard, not just aviation specialists, is trained in storm procedures.
When hail rolls in, the response is smooth and fast, because everyone on that ship has rehearsed exactly what to do.
So here is what actually happens when a hailstorm hits a carrier in the open ocean. Aerographers spot it early. Course and speed are adjusted if possible. If not, the flight deck goes into lockdown. Jets move to the center. Chains and wheel chocks lock every aircraft in place.
Priority jets go below on hydraulic elevators into the sealed hangar bay. Ballast tanks are adjusted. The helmsman angles the ship into the waves, and thousands of trained sailors execute a plan they've rehearsed dozens of times.
A single hailstone can dent aluminum. A poorly secured jet becomes a $67 million projectile on a rolling deck.
The Navy knows this, and they don't leave it to chance.
That's how the US Navy keeps its fighter jets safe from hailstorms in the open ocean. From aerographers watching the sky, to sailors chaining down jets in driving rain, to engineers who built a ship that can survive a 26-degree roll and come back level.
For the men and women on US Navy carriers, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next.